Hey guys, Kryptus here. I know I haven't made a video like this in quite some time, so let's go ahead and get started with the 5.2 changes. What are they and what does this mean for us Death Knights? So here's a list of a few changes that affect Frost and Unholy. I'm going to cover just the basic, just to get the general idea out there of what is really going on with the more useful spells and what changes have been made. So diseases do about 15% more damage. Howling Blast does 8% more damage to the primary target. Icy Touch now gives death runes. Plague Strike now applies both diseases, and Gargoyle is now free cost for when you have to summon it and no longer costs 60 runic power like it did once before. So let's compare 5.1 with 5.2, shall we? So here we have our diseases in 5.1 as Frost. As you can see, Blood Plague hits for about 3,500, Frost Fever ticks for about 4,600. Now let's see what it looks like in 5.2. So Blood Plague hits for about 4,000 and Frost Fever ticks for about 5,300. For this I tested having the same gear and setup as I did in 5.1, so that way it wasn't too different from 5.1 to 5.2. So now let's go ahead and take a look at Unholy in 5.1. So as you can see, Blood Plague hits for about 9,100, Frost Fever is about 6,500, which isn't too bad. Now switching over to 5.2, Blood Plague now hits for about 11,500 average, and Frost Fever is about 8,000. Quite the change, to be honest. Unholy Dots can do a lot of devastating damage. Again, same gear and setup as it was in 5.1. So now let's go ahead and take a look at Howling Blast and the damage change that it had. I think it's at 8%, so let's go ahead and see. In 5.1, you see it strikes for about 27k on the primary target. And now let's go ahead and check what it does in 5.2. So now it's about 29k for the primary target, which is a nice change in damage. And remember, both these tests were done without buffs or trinket uses. It's just a base raw damage. So I guess 2,000 to 3,000 bonus damage isn't too bad. And speaking of which, there are 3 unholy changes that I wanted to discuss and talk about. The first one is Icy Touch. In 5.1, as you see, Icy Touch was normal. It just applies Frost Fever and moves on with its life. And now let's go ahead and take a look at 5.2. Now when you use Icy Touch in 5.2, you notice that it gives you a death rune, which is a nice change for Unholy in my mind. Plague Strike was also on that list of changes. In 5.1, as you see, Plague Strike was normal just by applying Blood Plague as intended. But now let's go ahead and take a gander at 5.2. As you see, Plague Strike now applies both diseases when used, and Chilblains if you're spec'd into that, which again can be very useful in its own way. I'm not saying that it's the best change, but it is a very nice change. And the final thing I wanted to cover was the Gargoyle change for Unholy. This one I really enjoyed, to be honest. Gargoyle now no longer costs runic power to summon, and the damage done is no longer nature damage but now shadow damage. This should help with delivering a lot of damage for burning down those healers or other players by keeping constant pressure, and now that it is affected by mastery for Unholy, it should do a lot more damage than it did once before. Now I know there are many other changes that I haven't listed or even talked about, such as the Scorch Strike change, the Icy Talons change, Might of the Frozen Waste, Death Siphon conversion. Maybe I'll make a video about those later on, but today in this video I just wanted to cover things that many people were asking me about in regards to the disease damage change, the Howling Blast changes, and the few minor unholy changes such as the Plague Strike, Icy Touch, and the Gargoyle change. So I went ahead and made a video just to kind of cover those things in general, to give them a visual representation of what the changes actually look like from 5.1 to 5.2. And there are 2 other things I wanted to talk about before I forget. It's the Asphyxiate and the Strangulate changes. Those are 2 worth mentioning. Asphyxiate is now a stun that can be used every 30 seconds, which is a pretty nice change. In addition to that, our Strangulate is now a 1 minute cooldown rather than 2 minutes. Another good changes. And so maybe I'll try to play with Asphyxiate a little bit more in the future. We'll see what happens there. Anyways, I do hope you enjoyed this quick little video to show the update from 5.1 to 5.2 and what changes are currently being implemented into the game and what they look like. I really hope you enjoy your Death Knight changes for the time being, and we'll see you sometime soon. Thanks for watching.